What's up, folks? It's Stoke Steve, back with some more Risk of Rain. Really just recording because I finally got an item combination I've been wanting for a while. The Gesture of the Drowned, which reduces the cooldown of your equipment item by 50% and makes it activate the item automatically. So this is what I used in that run, like creating just countless drones. But this time instead I want to use it with the Royal Capacitor. Basically just shoots a lightning bolt. It's infinite range, pretty short cooldown. Just casts a lightning bolt on whatever you have your reticle pointed at. So I'm curious, you know, if I can get just like a bunch of lightning bolts firing down on enemies constantly. If I'm lucky, I'll find a printer for some fuel cells. That'll get the light show really going. But for now, just chilling, grabbing items and whatnot. Yeah, really love that Royal Capacitor. Considered also doing the was it the Prion accumulator, the charge beam that you can fire. That one has a much more limited fire rate. Like, it takes like 5 seconds to wind up each shot, so it wouldn't be as fun. Alternatively, the missile launcher could be pretty cool with this. If I see the missile launcher, I might try it out. For now, we'll just be using our lightning bolt. It's nice with the Gesture of the Drowned, just because like it instantly fires. I don't have to click anything. I just have to hover over the enemy for a second, and it'll instantly shock them, which is really nice. Yeah, especially with the engineer, with his limited range on his own abilities. Makes it very difficult to get like far away enemies, but with this I can just constantly fire and not have to worry about a thing. I imagine doing it this way is much less lag intensive in the event that we get a ton of the fuel cells to create more uses of our equipment item. I'm curious how many lightning bolts we can get going. There's one thing I kind of would like to see different, is making lunar items a bit easier to get, at least the ones that you want. Maybe having, you know, a wider shop inventory, or increasing the drop rate of lunar coins. As is, I generally get like 1 lunar coin per run, if that, which is easily wasted. If you ever pick up lunar items from the pods, never know what you're gonna get. Oftentimes it's the lunar equipment items, which I don't believe any of those are any good. Most of the other lunar items are pretty meh, honestly, or somewhat detrimental. Finally tried out that that crown item the other day. One that gives you gold for dealing damage and takes away gold when you take damage. Really very easy to get yourself at 0 gold with that. It just takes away gold much faster than it gives you gold. The shaped glass is always tempting, but honestly, the most important stat in this game, for me at least, is just HP. Just being able to take a hit is invaluable. It's the most difficult thing to really raise the stat of. You basically have an infusion, you have the shield, and you have the teddy bear, you know, and to a lesser extent the invisibility. Yeah, those are the only things that can outright prevent you from taking damage. While heals are nice, it's very easy for enemies to get to a point where they're able to one-shot you. There's really just no substitute for being able to take a hit. no matter how much you pay attention, there's always a chance, you know, something will spawn on top of you and you'll, you know, not spot an enemy in time or something. And then you're dead. Nothing you can do about it. Tesla coil. Honestly, Tesla coil is probably my favorite, like, red tier item. You know, just, you know, automatically attacking nearby enemies. If you get a bunch of Tesla coils, you don't even have to directly attack anything. Can hit enemies while they're still, you know, or when they're still crawling up from underground through walls and shit. Just to get some nice AoE items, you know, like the uke or the knives. With that, you're pretty much set. I played around a bit more with some of the other characters. I have to say Engineer is the best overall. Just because he has the highest balanced stats, like very high HP and high damage. Not to mention like the whole strategy of just being able to drop turrets. And having the shield, of course. It's always a lifesaver to be able to outright block without relying on the cover of the map. But yeah, Huntress, I tried out for a bit. The dash can be good if you're careful about dodging, but really her just main detriment is her low HP. Like the Commando is with 110% HP starting out, and Huntress is only 90% HP, as compared to the Robot, which is 200% HP, and the Engineer, which is like, I want to say 150 or something like that. I forget exactly what his numbers were. But yeah, with Huntress, as nice as the dodge can be, and you know, she has decent crowd control, but really, she's the least able to take a hit, which again, there's no substitute for. Let's see, then I tried out Artificer. Like, she has very nice crowd control, very good damage. I think the main problem I had with her was just how slow her regular attack was, her mouse one. But, I mean, the flamethrower and the charge up are very good crowd control. The main issue, of course, is that she doesn't have any kind of defensive ability. I mean, you have the freeze wall, which is more of a damage thing than any kind of defensive. With no way to dodge, pretty much required to use the terrain if you want to avoid taking damage. Which I believe she has, what, like 110 or 120 HP or something like that. Then you got the Mercenary. Done a few runs of him. Does very good damage and has the benefit of invulnerability frames, dash, and with his arm move. But really, the only way to survive certain enemies, not getting close to them, which isn't really an option. The main ones you wouldn't want to get close to are the worms and the any fire elites. Fire elites are easy ways to die as the Mercenary. Even though you have some invincibility frames, there is no way to avoid like getting hit with fire. As long as you have like some good healing and are very careful about how you approach fire elites, you can get pretty far with the Mercenary. And he does very good damage and has good HP, so you don't have to really worry about getting one shot most of the time. I think I've said before, I like MUL-T. It's probably my second or third. Commando is pretty close. MUL-T's great just for the fact that he can take a hit. You know, having two items and being able to switch between a sniper and a regular rapid fire weapon. It's just a fun way to play, and having two items can come in handy. Of course, I mentioned before, I'm pretty partial to like his body slams that he does. Those are quite fun. They do a lot of damage. Makes it a lot easier to take out Stone Guardians and such. And besides that, it's just Commando, really. Just a very versatile class. My only gripe is that he's not very good at taking a hit. He has the standard, like, 110% HP, which, you know, ultimately there are things that will one-shot you with that much health. Yeah, he's really nice just because, you know, infinite range. His piercing now is 2 attack. Just gotta line up some enemies, knock them all down with that. I'm still quite excited to try out the other survivors funny and putting in this. Just having all the different playstyles keeps things fresh. Having one, you know, character type better or worse than another gives you different challenges, not necessarily focused on what works best. Have to let me know what survivors you think are most interesting to watch or play as. I think aesthetically, like, Artificer's my favorite. You know, that cool dome helmet, the way they sort of hover along. It's pretty cool. But functionally, you gotta stick with the Engineer. Kind of debating how much I like the clay pigeon, the one that makes you leap forward when you're holding forward and press jump, increases your speed that way. It's also the thing that causes you to like leap super high up in the air. It was just entertaining, of course, but you know, going super high up and coming back down can be annoying at times. Takes you out of the fight. Love just being able to look at something and have it die. Or a Tesla coil. Always appreciated. Just taking out the small fries so much easier. Also kind of goes with the whole theme I'm going for with the lightning bolts. Ceremonial daggers. It's pretty much the finisher item I've found. They just very easily overwhelm everything on the map. Easy peasy. Ah, another fuel cell. Excellent. Still really hoping for a printer, but you know, with how short the cooldown is on this ability, you really don't need that many fuel cells to really get it going. Didn't even know an enemy was there, just swipe my reticle over, and bam. Easy, quick kill. Sheer versatility. Yeah, really the best aspect of the Engineer, I always forget, is the fact that the turrets proc, so they have like they have their own Tesla coils, they have their own like frost circles, their own missiles that they can launch and such. Really can't overstate that kind of the damage they end up doing from that. Yeah, one really nice thing is just the skulls that fire whenever you get healed. They're constantly stationary, they have the mushrooms constantly healing them, and thus they'll constantly shoot out the skulls. It's a really nice thing for them. Yeah, this is one slightly annoying thing, is that since it fires automatically, the capacitor will end up shooting at, you know, the destructible objects on the map. The POS on this level, for example. That's not a big deal. Just one waste of a shot. I'm not actually sure if there's any kind of like elemental resistances for the elites. If burn or electric or cold damage does less to them based on their type. Doesn't seem like it does though. It's not significantly less anyway. Love when it gets to the point where you can just stand still. Just watch the light show. I don't think hardly any of my drones have died this run. They usually end up being dumb at some point, and usually like a worm will end up getting them, or they'll get stuck, end up being an easy target that way. Yeah, I've noticed the lightning bolts seem to be really good against the worms. I think if you line it up right, you can get multiple hits along the body. Ooh, nearly died that time. I actually don't have great healing items at the moment. Really just waiting to get more of the fuel cells, but I think I might go for more of the Blessing of the Drowns. Reduce the cooldown even further. Not too big on using the lunar coins frivolously though, with how hard they tend to be to come by. And now we have ghosts, so it's gonna be a nice easy run, because it was already on easy mode. I actually tried to get this item combination a couple times on the hardest difficulty, but yeah, I just ended up dying too far into it. Figured I just want to see what the effect of it would be like. Just want to see how the items behave together, really. So. Yeah, we've already gotten to the point where most normal attacks are being phased out. It's all about AoE. Of course, I do have a dick ton of drones, so as I mentioned last time, endgame ultimately ends up being just passive damage for the most part. But the capacitor definitely complements that with being able to hit far range, not actually have to press attack. Basically, I have capacitor for anything that's not, you know, within a small radius around me. The capacitor is just a short time between shots. Not actually, I haven't been paying too close attention, but I'm not sure if it actually fires off all the shots just instantly when targeting an enemy, or if there's much of a wait between them. There does seem to be a small delay between the shots for the capacitor. Don't have to worry about wasting all the shots, just overkilling an enemy that way. So that was another big drone. I think that's the first time I've had two at the same time. They usually end up dying pretty quick, but hey. Well, you should have just saved my lunar coins and gone to the shop. I did try the effigy of grief. It's not really practical. Unless you have like one of the characters with a dash, so that you can get out of the area of effect. But yeah, that effigy of grief just slows you down and reduces your armor. Anyone within the area of effect, so that they can take more damage if hit. Pretty useless for the engineer, just because it's risky putting it down and then getting out of the area of effect, since he doesn't have any good movement abilities. I mean, you could try it with any of the units with a dash. Really, with just a fixed area of effect, it's not terribly versatile. Kind of wish they had like a separate buying space within the shop, or maybe like different pods on the levels. But, you know, one might drop equipment, one might drop items. I think that would be a fair thing to do. There's already a fair amount of variation. You're quite sure what you're gonna get. Narrow it down a little bit. Kind of wish you had the ability to remove specific items from the tables. You know, you can do a run with like only certain items. Get some interesting builds going that way. Last try. Oh baby! All right, got ourselves another gesture of the drowned. We'll cut down the cooldown by another 50% on our equipment item, making it much more viable as a continuous attack. Yeah, it really just still needs some more fusion cores. I think it'd be so cool to get just a continuous shot of the capacitor. Everything I look at instantly hit. Another big guy. Was that 3 of the prototypes? Another first. So we get that. Beans. Overloading worms are still a risky business. Yeah, getting a high boss count now. Alright, looks like we've got to the point where it doesn't display the boss name anymore. I'm expecting I won't get an item for this. Actually, I had 2 shrines of the mountain on that one. I guess they don't do anything anymore. Well, it's not quite enough for continuous fire, but it's definitely enough to kill anything I look at. So, basically a success with this experiment. Can't even see that boss and I killed it. Another fuel cell. Definitely up to the point that I wanted this to be. Didn't take a printer to do it though, but that's fine. All the tentacles. Actually, removed corpses in the options, but it seems like the tentacles are left around afterwards, regardless. Not as bad as it could be, I suppose. Yeah, I guess I'll see if I can do the rest of this without the assistance of turrets. Since I can fire this continuously, more or less. He took up all my shots there. Definitely a lot harder to kill solo enemies than groups with the AoEs. Still works, of course. So just for comparison, we'll try out this beam. Good thing the AoEs do most of the damage. It's like, with what I have Now it's about a 10-second downtime between volleys. Even though the big laser beam deals more damage, with how slow moving the attack is and how long its cooldown is, it's really much less practical. Doubt much could survive it though. Yeah, but at this point we're no longer able to activate the challenge shrines. So I assume we lose the ability to do those at the same time we stop getting items from portals. But, ludicrous amounts of money. You know, I've never actually used this. I don't know. Yeah, kind of slow projectiles on that. Continuous fire, though. I probably could get away with using it with how much money I make at this point. So, really, the capacitor is just much better at its job. I mean, you could probably make a case for using the gnarled wood sprite, because that does mean it's, you know, constantly healing you. By the time you get this kind of cooldown on your items, you probably don't need healing. Yeah, it doesn't seem like using the capacitor would ever cause ludicrous amounts of lag, like the backup item would, sending out infinite amounts of drones. Yeah, even if you get crazy numbers of the fuel cells with this, you can only cast it so fast. You can cast it pretty fast, but there's a limit there that I don't think would exceed what your computer can handle. Still killing them from here. It's wonderful. It's a very nice item. It does require you to have a line of sight on their mid-body, which can be a problem if they have some kind of cover, but you know, it's just a relatively small thing for how effective it is. Let's see, up to 13 teddy bears. Yeah, with all the 21 leaf clovers, I think I should be nigh invulnerable at this point. I don't believe increasing attack speed actually affects equipment, but I could be wrong. Reduces the cast time, maybe. Have to look it up, see if it says anything about that one. Yeah, I really wish boss corpses would clear up over time. Is it very difficult to find buttons? So begins the long silences. Has no enemies spawn anymore. Overloading worms are dying quite quickly. Where is he? There he is. Oh, I got an item from that one. I guess it did show the name. Seems to be fairly random in that regard. Just steadily decreases the odds that you'll fight an actual boss when you activate the teleporter. Kinda wish the lighting effects weren't made so dramatic. Wow. Myself a lot of ghosts going, I guess. I wasn't expecting this kind of lag. At least it's still spawning enemies. Yeah, so they can hurt me that way. And they killed all my drones that way too. Interesting. Friendly fire! Well, that's all my money. Yeah, it's gotten to that point where like not enough stuff spawns for me to actually afford hardly anything. Rather, like a bunch of bosses and stuff spawn at the very beginning. Nothing else spawns after that. They give a relatively small amount of money compared to the cost of items. So, oh hey, yeah, we got some bosses. Cool. Can actually afford a couple things, maybe. And the mushroom ring's gotten big enough I can just about heal myself 100% just from one tick. Yay, rocket launcher. Now we can watch this for a while. Nice little fireworks show for you folks. But yeah, rockets would have the benefit of me not having to aim at something to kill it. And they are infinitely ranged. Pretty sure they go around obstacles for the most part. They pretty much head straight for their target. So they would still run into cover, of course. And they all just fall back down once they get to a certain point. I think I'd say the worst part is definitely the noise. This is a loud item. And we'll go ahead and switch back to our capacitor. Interesting. I'm still firing rockets for the time being. Quite curious. Ah, the rockets finally stopped. Cool. Well, folks, thanks for watching. Test out this capacitor. Works quite well. Might even be preferable over the backup drones. Glad I got to test out the missiles as well. As long as you don't mind the noise, they work decently. It's interesting that they sort of queue up because they can't fire out faster than they activate. So that's why they continued to fire after I had switched items. Unfortunately, I was not able to find another lunar coin, so I can try to kill the newt again, but yeah, something I'll have to leave for another day. But for now, it's time to obliterate myself from existence. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.